Good afternoon, everyone. My name is DM Rawlings. I am the 10-Minute DM, an experienced Forged in the Dark GM, and I am here to offer my advice 10 minutes at a time. So I thought today we'd continue our series on Blades in the Dark consequences. So let's talk about lost opportunities. What's a lost opportunity? Well, when a lost opportunity happens, something that was possible becomes no longer possible. A door closes, a path is no longer accessible. To get what you want, maybe you're going to need to take a new approach, or maybe that thing is entirely blocked off to you. Lost opportunities are the best consequence to nudge the story in a certain direction. So let's take a look at some examples across differing levels of stakes. So imagine Quinn is trying to pick a strange lockbox. They roll control, and let's say they fail with low stakes. We might say something like, the lock proves too difficult. You'll need to get it back to your workshop in order to open it. So what we're losing here is immediate access to the contents for this particular assignment. But afterwards, it's possible to see what's in there. It's a low stakes roll. Or if it's a failure with medium stakes, maybe the lock's clever design eludes you. Not only do you not open it, but in the intervening time, when you were trying to do that, a witness that you never knew was there ends up leaving the scene, and now you can't question them. Or maybe there's a mixed success with low stakes, where you're able to bypass the lock, but the witness saw this, and now is refusing to answer questions. They view you as a group of filthy criminals, and they don't associate with your kind. Or you can look at a mixed success with medium stakes, where you're able to pick the lock, and as you jockey for leverage, you hear a glass break from within, and some of the loot that's within this lockbox is now lost to you. Moving on to a couple of high stakes rolls, we'll use another example here. Imagine now Bailey sprinting to escape an eldritch tomb before it falls into lava. As they near the exit, they spy a golden idol sitting on a pedestal, and roll move to quickly grab it. And let's assume they fail. The room's collapsing. This is high stakes. You reach out for the idol just as a gout of magma strikes the platform. You don't get it, and while you're reaching, you drop all of the research notes that you made getting here. Or maybe a mixed success. You are able to grab the idol, but as you do, the platform ahead collapses. You're going to need to find a new way out of here. And in both cases as well, I'd probably drop a body harm in. This is a high stakes roll after all. We do want to make sure that these are treated seriously by players. So, a few types of lost opportunity. One where information is blocked. Maybe the answer that you're looking for isn't in your notes or your books. Maybe the witness just didn't see what you wanted them to see. Or maybe there's just so much bleed here that it interferes with your supernal senses. You're not able to get a reading. Maybe the path is blocked. There's a literal cave-in that prevents you from exploring more. Or maybe a bridge washes away in a flood, and now you're going to need to find a new way out of here. Or maybe snow blocks the path, and you need to go through a mine instead. Never heard of that one before. Or maybe this has to do with access. Maybe a member of the periphery stops talking to you for some reason. Maybe you damage or you break something, and now it's no longer usable. Maybe you fail in a secondary mission objective. All of those are kind of ways that maybe we can view these kinds of consequences. And a few observations. There's two broad categories. One is a situation where, as a result of the consequences, you're going to need to find a new approach. So the way that you intended to do something is no longer a possible way to advance. Or maybe it's a situation where the characters just cannot accomplish what they're hoping to do. But we really should be cautious when applying this consequence, especially in story-critical moments. If we end up blocking the players too hard, then vital information for the story may never get out. It's best to use lost opportunities for optional goals, like loot, or stretch goals, or other more story-driven objectives. And I'll mention as well, lost opportunities work really well with danger clocks. I'll put my video for clocks up above. One of my favorite. I recommend you check it out. But some examples for names that you might use for clocks. They escape. Structural collapse. The ritual. These are larger lost opportunities And by placing them in front of your players, you can create urgency for them that's going to make them push forward and try to accomplish their goals. And remember, as they take consequences based on the stakes of the roll, you're going to be ticking up that clock to the point where it fills. And that's 1 tick for a low stakes roll, 2 for medium, or 3 for high stakes. So, last what I want to cover is, why do we use lost opportunities? And I think the primary reason, the most important thing that I get from these, is that it speeds things up. It simplifies things. It removes options from players. It forces them to focus on the primary objective by limiting their options. They help us pick up the story's pace, and especially in a session where we are looking for getting the session to its resolution, these can be good for speeding things up. The other thing they can do is they can lock off wild goose chases. So if players ever get these crazy ideas that just aren't going to further the story, you can use a lost opportunity to close that off and force them back onto a right path. Unless, of course, that wild idea that they had was better than your idea, go ahead and run with that. And then lastly, I think there's a really cool opportunity with consequences, and specifically lost opportunities, to force players to make difficult choices. As a consequence, you can say, you have 2 choices. You can either do 1 or you can do 2. And if you do 1, you can't do 2, but if you do 2, you can't do 1. So what is more important for you? And are you going to push yourself extra hard to try to salvage one or another? This is very much the classic Joker, like, you can only save one of your friends kind of situations. So, with that in mind, I hope that gives you a better sense of what's going on with lost opportunities as a consequence type in your Candela Obscura game. I've been DM Rawlings, the 10-Minute DM, and if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. It would help me a lot.